Beseder. So let's continue to Besamim. We've done wine. We went on to general beverages that could be used for Havdala. Now we'll talk about the Besamim. So why do we use the Besamim at all? Why make this bracha in the first place? The Gemara in Beitza says, Amar b'Shimon ben Lakish, Neshama yetera noten HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'adam erev Shabbat, to take his calories, right? Ulmotzei Shabbat notlim ota himenu, shenemar Shabbat vay nafash, kivan sheShabbat vay avda nefesh. Since when Shabbat is over, you lose a nefesh, right? That's why it's very well known, right? Motzei Shabbat, often people get upset, right? It's a true phenomenon, apparently. People feel more depressed, people more upset after Shabbos leaves because they're extra neshama. There's actually an interesting Tosfot. I think it's a Tosfot that discusses, do you mean like a second neshama, or do you mean more neshama yetera, meaning an expansion of the neshama, right? Neshama yeter, right? It's not two neshamot. See what I'm saying? It's not that you have two neshamot on Shabbos, it's you have more neshama dik, right? Your neshama expands. Beseder. So the Abudram connects that to this. He says the reason Hatam shemerichinu b'Besamim Motzei Shabbat k'lasot hatuach la'adam al she'alcha mimeno neshama yitera avuda b'Motzei Shabbat shenemar Shabbat v'nefesh kivan sheShabbat v'avda nefesh. So the Abudram is the one who connected this Gemara in Beitza that discusses the neshama yitera, losing the neshama yitera, to the issue of the Besamim. Rambam is not so different. Lama mevarchim b'Besamim Motzei Shabbat mipnei she'anefesh do'evet li'tziat Shabbat. It doesn't go into the nefesh that left him. Just the nefesh is upset. People are upset Motzei Shabbat. But I think there are two ways of reading the Rambam, and also the Abudram. And I think that's to do with, I'm not sure if Yaakov made a face before or not. But is this a true phenomenon? Do people really feel upset when Shabbos leaves? Right? We all sing, right? Shabbos is go over Uncle Moshe, right? Shabbos is going away, right? Do people really feel upset? What do you think, Yaakov?
Depends how depressing their week looks.
Well, saying nowadays people are depressed all the time, so.
No, in my personal experience, that's how I feel. When I think that the week coming up is going to be okay, then I can't say that I'm sad when Shabbat leaves. And when I think that it's going to be a depressing week, then yes, I am.
Right. So I think
we also need to realize that for many people, the week was really hard. Mm-hmm. And Shabbat was a real relief from the pressures of the week.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then it really is a natural thing. So I think there are two ways of looking at that Budram and the Rambam. One way is to say that there is a natural and metaphysical phenomena that we get more upset after Shabbat leaves because the nefesh is gone, and because, even if not nefesh in that sense, the Rambam doesn't say the nefesh is gone. He says the nefesh do'evet. I think the Rambam, who's more of a, let's say, right, less Kabbalic oriented, the Rambam just says people get upset Motzei Shabbat, so we find a way to give you a bit of a boost to feel better, right? So really, it's an Eitzah Tova Kamashmalan, right? We say, let's turn this into a ritual to help everyone get through this transition from Shabbos to the rest of the week. But it could be read differently. It could be, you should read it like this. Reish Lakish informs us that your neshama, that the extra nishmatiyut you have has left, and you should be upset by this. Now, maybe you don't feel that upset, but you should know it's there. And even if you don't experience it, it is there. And my way of showing that I believe Reish Lakish is by doing the Besamim. In order to respect properly that the nefesh really had, that extra nishmatiyut is left, I do this ritual that says, I maybe I don't experience this upsetness that we're talking about. Maybe I'm not really that maybe I don't really feel it on the experiential level, but I am going to act it out. We're going to see there are actual nafkaminot from that question. So that's why I think that's I want to propose. Actually, I've come in from the question of, is this something that we're just doing? We're doing you a favor. We're doing you a favor and helping you out, helping you through this transition. So Chazal tell us this is a good way to help you get through the transition. Or is this a way that we give credence to this concept of the neshama leaving us? Just one word about, just a word from the Shemi Shmuel. The Shemi Shmuel says about Chadadam Arishon, that the only what's it called? The only chush that wasn't used in Chadadam Arishon was the smelling, right? The chush of chush harech, right? Right? You can feel, and he saw, and he tasted. He didn't, and he listened, and the Adam and Chava talked to each other, right? And they listened to each other. The only chush that wasn't used in the chet, the only chush that remained intact from Gan Eden was the chush harech, and that's why the correct way when you Shabbat is me'en olam haba. It's like going back to Gan Eden. When you leave Gan Eden, what you want to carry with you is that chush that was not tainted, that you still experience the same way it's experienced in Gan Eden, and that has to be chush harech. So just interesting insight about Chadam Arishon and about leaving Gan Eden once again. When you leave Gan Eden, you want to take the remnant of that along with you. So the first nafkamina, I think that comes up, is the question, how hard you need to work in order to get Besamim. Because if Chazal are just doing us a favor and telling us, it'll be easier to go through this transition with Besamim. I say, well, easier, yes, but I'm in the middle of the Negev, right? I'm outside Eilat doing Shmirah, and right, as a soldier, I'm outside Eilat doing Shmirah. I have no way of getting Besamim. I'm going to have to spend money and time trying to get the Besamim. Maybe it's not worth the effort, right? It's hard for me to think about, here in Gush Etzion, you walk around, you just pick something, and you have Besamim. But if you're in a place where it's harder to get Besamim, how hard do you have to work? How much should you invest in that? Because if they're just doing me a favor and telling me here's a good way to go through that transitions, I say, okay, thanks a lot, but this time it's just not worth my effort. So the Gemara says this about the nil. You don't have to invest in getting the fire that we're going to go on to, right, the candle. We're going to get to later on. The same way you invest and the same way you'll go out of your way to make sure you do other mitzvot. So the Rashi brings the Ravid. Kadavar Ravid kol sheken al besamim dinu anad nafshei. Besamim is for you, right? We did you a favor. We told you here's a good way to translate. I say, okay, thanks, but this time it's not worth my effort. That's your loss. It's not, you can. If it's too much, if it's too hard for you, so don't do it. You don't need to, you're not doing anything else any favors, right? That's the Ravid's point here. The Meiri disagrees. He says, meaning that in mechazrin al-ul, right? In mechazrin al-besamim, ולא דלה שעושים קל וחומר, שאם על האור שמברכים עליו מצד שנברא במוצאי שבת והוא זכר למעשה בראשית, לא צריך לחזר אחריו, בסמים שאינן אלא לענת עצמו, לא כל שכן. מכל מקום, his bottom line, he disagrees, הבסמים מחזרים שכבוד שבת הותקנו לו דעת נשמה יתרה. Right? You notice the transition here? לכבוד שבת להודעת נשמה יתרה. It's not for you. It's your way of showing that you appreciate that something happened. When Shabbos leaves, we tell you you had a neshama yetara, extra nishmatiyut, and that's gone. And you should be upset. Say, well, I'm not upset. It's like, well, act it out anyway. Act it out anyway. Neshama left the world. You should be upset. Now, maybe you're not feeling upset, but go through the motions, right? So that's right. So I think that's the same achloket I presented earlier, right? When we say, is the point, right? The Ravid says we gave it. It's for you. We're teaching. We're leading you. We're leading you through this process. Here's a good way of getting through this. If you don't want, if it's hard for you, so don't do it. The Meiri says yes, but if you do that, you're saying, well, I don't really care if Shabbat left. Not my problem. Chutzpah, right? That's the machloket, the Meiri and derive it. Okay, a different point, and this is very relevant to, this is something I would never occur to me, suddenly became very, very relevant, right? What happens if someone has corona? And we hope that anyone who has corona, if he has any symptoms at all, the only symptom he'll have is he'll lose a sense of smell. So this actually happens to people. There's a very relevant question. It's happened to several people I know. And they say, wait, do we make a bracha on Besamim Motzei Shabbat? It's part of the text, it's part of the ritual, but I can't smell it. Says the Or Zarua, Adam shu totran ve'ino meriach. אני יכול לברך בורת בסמים כדי להוציא אחרים. דבר זה כבר שלח רבנו יהודה ברב קלונימוס ברב מוישה רבנו אפרים, אני תותרן ואיני מריח כל עיקר. אני אסק אם הוא ברכה לבטלה שאני מברך על עצי בסמים ואני סומך על הוצאת אחרים ידי חובה. והשיב לו אדם שאין מריח ומברך על עצמו על בסמים יברכה. לבטלה, it's a ברכה לבטלה. So what do you say? It's not a ברכה לבטלה. I want him מוציא בני ביתו, I want him מוציא everyone else here. אינו יכול. לא דמה לקידוש והבדלה וריקד לחם ומצה דעה וחובה ומצווה. When you make kiddush, right, we learned that when you make kiddush, you can make kiddush and have someone else drink the Rav Kos for you, right? When you make kiddush, you're motzi people this chiyuv. And therefore, since you're motzi others the chiyuv, those who you're motzi could drink the wine for you. But Besamim is only a minhag. And I think this follows the Ravid's thinking. What do you mean it's a minhag? It means Chazal did you a favor, right? Chazal did you a favor. They gave you an option. They gave you, they said, here's a good way of leaving Shabbos. Well, if it doesn't work for you because you just had corona, so you can't smell anything, so, well, sorry. This would be good advice for someone who can smell, but you can't, so what can you do? The Meiri, I think, L'shitato disagrees. Besamim, יש אומרים שהם ברכת הנהנים, ואין מי שיצא מוציא, אין מי שיצא מוציא בהם, right? There's the clause, יצא מוציא. If I'm yotzei kiddush, I'm motzi you in the bracha of yain. So, right, I'll make kiddush, and since I'm yotzei the kiddush, you too could drink the wine. אני אומר שאין אלו ברכת הנהנים גמורה, הואיל ותקן חכמים הם ולא מצד דעתו ומביאם. אף על פי שנהנית, you're right. He is supposed to get pleasure out of them. אבל הם כברכת חובה. So first of all, they are חובה. ועוד כיוון שמסדר חכמים נסדרו כאחת, אין לומר קטן לצאת והקטן שלא לצאת. But I think the main point is the ברכת חובה. Once again, had I not seen the previous Meiri, I'd say, all right, so the Or Zarua says it's a minhag and the Meiri says it's a chiyuv. Right? But I think there's a deeper point here. I think the Or Zarua, when he says it's a minhag, he says, and when he says it's not like Kiddush, it's not like the bracha of Havdala, it's not like the bread of the Suda. All those things, you have a chiyuv to eat bread on the Suda on Shabbos. But the Besamim is a minhag, and I think it's a deeper minhag. The minhag of the Besamim is just a good way of leaving Shabbos. That's just the wiser way of doing it. And if you can't, because you had corona, so you can't smell, so, well, sorry, tough, what can you do? But the Meiri says, no, it's a chiyuv. Why would it be a chiyuv if we're only doing you a favor? Why only showing you a good method of leaving Shabbos? Why would that be a chiyuv? I think the chiyuv assumes the previous Meiri, who said it's a chiyuv to have that kvod Shabbat, lo dat neshama yetera. I think these two Meiris complete each other. So I think it's the same. I think it's the same machloket in a sense. But we see in the Shulchan Aruch, it's not exactly like that. The Shulchan Aruch says over here, Misha ino meriach, ino mevorach al besamim, אלא אם כן התכוון להוציא בני ביתו הקטנים, שהגיעו לחינוך או להוציא מי שאינו יודע. So this, right, this he's saying that you can't make the bracha unless you're motzi someone else. If you're alone, it seems that you don't make the bracha, right? Even though it's part of the seder. So I think what I wrote here is a mistake. I don't think this follows the Meiri, right? The Meiri, right? I think there's a mistake here. The Meiri says, it sounds from the Meiri. Here's a question. What happens if I'm by myself? I still have corona. That's why I'm by myself. I'm not, Baruch Hashem, I don't have corona. But if someone has corona, so he's by himself, so they bring him the Havdala set. would he say Morenu Besamim?
According to the Meiri, I don't think you could say that. That would be like saying that you would say Borei Priya Gefen even if you didn't have wine. It doesn't, just because it's written in the Sidur. That's not what he says. He says, right, the only question is if
Motzi others.
Yeah.
Motzi others. Saying no one says he could just make the bracha and put it up against his nose and not smell it. If you really can't smell, right? The whole discussion is, could he make the bracha and others will be motzi, be yotze, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're right. So right. So this does follow the Meiri. Okay. Yes, this does follow the Meiri. But when it comes to Tircha, he follows the Rash. And the Magen Avraham, I think he wants to solve this, to resolve this, because it sounds like when he says that it sounds more like the Ravid, right? So he says, "Kan de lo have ela lashiv nefesh yitara ve'in zal chazor charav klal im ken na mevarech lachavero." How's this resolve this? It seems like, I guess, I'm not sure how this Magen Avraham fits. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm not sure how this Magen Avraham fits, but I think what's happening,
it sounds like he's asking because it doesn't make sense.
He's saying it right. It doesn't sound. It's only right. It's not a resolution. Yeah. I think the bottom line is this. I think really his netiyah is like the Ravid, right? And then he says, and if we read this more carefully, so bnei klanim shegiu lechinuch is easier, right? Sometimes we say you can make a bracha for young children just so they know the order of things. So if a person had corona and he doesn't have the sense of smell and he's by himself with his 5-year-old child and the 5-year-old doesn't know how to make the bracha, he's teaching him how to make Havdala. So you could justify saying a bracha just so he'll know how to say it. What about Lotzi Misheino Yodea? It's a revut. I know there's my netiyah to see the Shulchan Aruch more like the Ravid, right? Because he says he doesn't have to start going out of his way to find Besamim, because whatever, so you don't have Besamim, lo nora, right? By that token, you'd expect him to also follow the Rosaru and say it's just a minhag, so don't make the bracha. The only part is this: if he makes a bracha for someone who doesn't know, so that's the Magen Avraham's question. Right?
No, I think that in general with Yichot Brachot, you can, with Birkot HaNe'anin, somebody who shelo yodea is like an exception to the rule. No, I think I could be wrong.
I need to look it up because the Magen Avraham seems to think it's a stira here. Seems to think it's a stira here, but
maybe still because